Hey everybody, welcome to the Slick Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Langford. The point of this show is to help improve ourselves as dog men and to raise the quality of the dogs on the end of our lead. So let's settle in, turn the volume up, and let's see if we can't learn a trick or two together from our guests. Hey everybody, you are listening to the Slick Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Langford, and today we've got Chuck Loudin on the phone. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing great. How about you, Colby?
I'm doing good. It's Labor Day, and my boy's got a baseball game here after a while, and we're just kind of running around like chickens with our heads cut off. I had to work bees this morning, and my smoker went out on me, and I got stung by bees. One of my last hives that I went to check was my strongest, and uh, my smoker went out on me, and ended up getting zapped 3 times through my bee suit, through my veil, so I got stung twice on the arm or twice on the head and once on the arm, even though I had a full bee suit on. But uh,
Hey, hey, as long as you're not allergic to honeybees, you'll be okay.
yeah,
Up
yeah,
here, we just finished spring gobbler season yesterday, and so Adam and I are kind of coming down from spring gobbler season. So there you go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm not allergic to bees or nothing, so it'll be all right. It's just kind of annoying, and I'm kind of mildly swole up around where I got stung, but
Yeah,
haven't been hunting.
uh,
Just
you'll be you'll be okay.
oh yeah, oh yeah. But no, the reason I was wanting to get you on here was and I've been wanting to get you on for a while. I just hadn't got to you yet. But you made a really interesting post this morning on Facebook that I saw, and it was talking about dominant crossbreeding and prepotent parents. And man, that just
Right.
really piqued my interest, and I had to get you on here.
Yeah, good. That sounds good. I'm glad to be on.
Yep. Well, Chuck, why don't we start out? Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into dogs, or anything else that you want to kind of preface this with?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, for those who don't know, I'm 70 years old. And so I've been doing dogs for quite a while. Back in the 70s, I was a treeing walker guy. I was I had Finley River and Bean Blossom Buck and Johnson's Banjo breeding that, heck, a lot of guys nowadays don't even know what that is. But that's my background. And I got married in the late 70s, and like a lot of young guys, I sold all my coon dogs and bought a house full of furniture and married a beautiful woman, and that's how that went. A few years later, when we had kids, our youngest son, Adam, went squirrel hunting with a guy he had a vice dog, and after he went squirrel hunting with this vice dog, he said, "Man, I need tree dogs." And he was, I think, 12 years old. I think Adam was about 12 years old then. And he, well, I was trying to be responsible. He had worked, mowing lawns and trimming lawns, and he had some money for a boy, 12-year-old boy. And he said, I've got the money and I want to buy myself a cur dog. He didn't want a feist. He wanted a cur because he'd done a lot of, well, back then we had, gosh, what was the name of the website that we were on? Squirrel Haters or something like that. It was back in the day. And he'd been on there a lot and he met a lot of guys. And he said, I want a cur dog. And my hound background made me tell him that we didn't have an adult trained dog to train a pup with. And if he got a pup, we wouldn't be able to work it well, because, I mean, that was the way we trained coon dogs, was with a trained dog. And I said, if we get a pup, we don't have anything to train it with. Nobody around here has squirrel dogs. And so I told him, his mother and I were trying to be responsible, and we said, you've got the money, but it would be irresponsible of us to let you to buy a dog that you couldn't train. And they're well, that you have to take yourself back 30 years. And he came downstairs one day. He was about 12 years old. He came downstairs and said, "I did something really bad, but it turned out really good." And when your 12-year-old tells you that,
Oh
you're
no.
taken back a little bit. And so anyway, his mama and I said, "Well, what did you do and what happened?" And he said, "Well, we'd always told him, never tell anybody about give him any personal information over the internet, because back then, we were thinking, people would take advantage of him or do something bad." And he said, "Well, I told this guy out in Kansas that I'm 12 years old and I want a dog and you won't let me have one. And he told me that if we will let you have one, he will give it to you." And so his mama and I talked, and we said, "What are we going to do now? The guy's going to give him a dog. All we have to do is get it from Kansas to West Virginia." And this guy, his name was Joe McMillan. He was a lawyer out in Kansas. He owned McMillan's Bonnie Betty, and who I think is now is an OMCBA Hall of Fame dog. But he owned her, and he had bred her to a full brother to her. That dog's name, oh well, it come back to me here in a minute. But they were both out of Duff's Bob and Pine Knot Tiger Paws, dogs that we had no idea anything about. But all we had to do was get that dog from Kansas to West Virginia. And so we arranged to have the dog brought in here, and she came in, and on an airplane, it was a lot easier to fly dogs then than it was to, get a dog hauler. But we flew that dog in here. And so Adam, 12 years old, had him a full-blooded original mountain cur, and I had no idea what to do with it. But in the end, I mean, Adam is now in his 40s, and he's an amazing teacher. He's a college professor now. He's taught a lot of years as a middle school teacher. He can teach kids, and he also can teach dogs. And so he got that dog in here. We named her Mountain State Pepper. We chose the Mountain State name after a single registered English coon dog that my friend had named Mountain State Rattler. And I just love Mountain State because that's West Virginia, And anyway, we named her Mountain State Pepper, and Adam trained her by actually baiting squirrels into a bird feeder in the backyard, and he would sit by the patio door with Pepper until squirrels got in that feeder, and he would slide the door open and shoot her right out that door. And she actually, at one point, she got to where if she saw a squirrel, she'd run smack into that patio door before it was open. I mean, she was crazy about them. And eventually, she got to where she'd tree on that squirrel feeder whether there was a squirrel in it or not, because they were in there so much. But he started her in the backyard like that with a patio door and watching squirrels in that feeder. And he then, then he's like 13 years old, and he started just taking her to the woods every day. I mean, he'd get off the bus after school, and we'd have to find him. I mean, he had that dog out somewhere, and we'd have to get off work and try to find where Adam was. And he was always out with that dog. And he trained her by herself into, I mean, if you've ever trained a puppy, you know how easy it is to mess one up. And he and Pepper messed up a lot, but he learned how to train the dog, and she learned how to train him when he was 12, 13 years old. So that's how we got started. And then he took her to Elnora, to the current Feist breeders hunt out there, where there were like over 100 dogs at that hunt. And we went out there, and all these people he met online, kind of in the same way that he found Pepper, he went out there and he met all these people, and we went on a hunt. And that was our first competition hunt, probably in 1999 or something like that. But anyway, that led to us. He wanted to raise a litter of pups, and we bred her once, and then we went on a world tree dog hunt up in Ohio, and I mean, we hunted against Franklin's Thunder, and this is a little story about Pepper and Franklin's Thunder because Adam had so much confidence in Pepper. The Thunder treed a squirrel. He treed, and they called him treed. Pepper went in, checked his tree, and left. And Adam told me, he said, "There's no squirrel in that tree, or Pepper would tree on it," because he hunted with her. She was, I don't know, 15 months old or something like that. And he said, "If there's a squirrel in that tree, Pepper would tree on it." I said, "Look up there, buddy, in that forks." And there was a fox squirrel laid in tight in a, in a branch there where you couldn't see it very well. And I said, "Look here, buddy, there's a squirrel in that tree." He couldn't believe it because he thought Pepper would tree every squirrel in the woods. And but we were hunting against Franklin's Thunder, about a 2.5-year-old Franklin's Thunder. I mean, that's, if I could go back in time, I would love to hunt Pepper against Franklin's Thunder again because, we eventually bred Pepper, but the second time we bred her, Adam was trying to figure out who across this whole United States was a good dog to breed her to. And I said, "Man, the best dog you've ever hunted with is like 2 hours away. Let's go up there and breed her to Franklin's Thunder." Well, that's where Apache came
Apache. Yep.
from. And so, I mean, that was the beginning. That was the beginning of our kennel. And of course, Franklin Thunder was, at that point in time, he was young and he was well known. I mean, he became well known here, but he wasn't well known at that time. But there was a bunch of dogs who were his brothers and sisters who were powerhouses. I mean, Sour Sport, and I'm going to start naming them here, and I can't even name them all. There's a picture of them out at Elnora, like a whole bunch of those dogs that were Streak Junior and Georgetta bred dogs. Danny Wilkinson owned a couple of them. And there were several of them. I'll name them here a little. In 5 minutes, I'll name them. But I can't right now. But anyway, I said, "Man, that dog is bred right." And we did not know at this point in time much about Duff's Bob and Pine Knot Tiger Paws, because we saw the papers, Pepper's papers. Pepper was an inbred cross. She was a cross of Duff's Bob and Pine Knot Tiger Paws on both sides. And we didn't know anything about that, but she was an inbred cross. Back when I was a hound guy, we didn't do inbred crosses. We didn't do line breeding. We crossed out on everything. But anyway, we took her up to Thunder, and that's where Apache came from. And that started so much in the Mountain Cur breed. And I mean, I don't want to act like at that point in time we were that smart, but maybe we were that lucky to breed Pepper to Franklin's Thunder. And so when after we did that and we got Apache, I mean, gosh, Apache was like born tree, and we said, "Holy cow, this is something special." So we started researching, the Duff's Bob and Pine Knot Tiger crosses, and then we started looking at Streak Junior and Georgetta, and we said, "Holy cow, this is something big here." We've crossed two of the best crosses in the early '90s or mid '90s Mountain Cur breed. We had made two of the best crosses. So from that we got Apache, and I mean he's a freak. The people who have never hunted with Apache are missing out because he was a freak of nature. I mean, he was so intense on the tree as a puppy that you wouldn't believe it if you saw it. And so we had him, and we had him for 4 years. But during that time, Alan Franklin was starting. I mean, the Thunder Dogs were starting to go crazy. Um, there was one picture we called the Sons of Thunder of the Ohio State Championship, where there were seven dogs from Franklin's Thunder in the hunt, and there were seven casts, and the top seven casts were all Franklin's Thunder pups. A lot of them were bred to jukebox females, but they were bred to various different things. One of them was Thunder bred to Mountain State Pepper, which was Apache who won the hunt. But so anyway, we started to see that happening, and some of the crossbreeding that Alan Franklin was doing was to Tootsdale and Candy females, and we started to see that happening. And we were never ever going to be a kennel with 20 dogs lined up and a whole kennel full of dogs. We never intended to do that. So I told Adam when we were at that stage, I said, what we need to do are find these crazy good crosses, and let's just take advantage of what these other guys have done. So there was Tootsdale and Toots Candy was having. I mean, up here in Ohio, of course, it was a long way from the middle of the cur dog world at that time, which the cur dog world was in Tennessee. But up here, Tootsdale and Candy dogs were just like, all of them were just like, making big news. And so we started talking about that. And so Alan Franklin had a female named Ginger, who was from a female named Ginger that was Tootsdale and Candy, and from Franklin's Thunder. And Franklin's Ginger was an amazing squirrel dog and coon dog that nobody really knew a lot about. But he said, he contacted us. He said, I want to bring her down and breed her that crazy Apache dog you got. And when he did, that's where Geronimo came from Apache bred to his half sister, which was Franklin's Thunder and Tootsdale and Candy, the Franklin's Ginger dog. And the first time we bred him, we kept a young pup and we fooled with him a little bit, but not a lot, because about 6 months old, when we were really ready to train ours, Alan just kept calling us and saying, oh my gosh, you should see this pup out of Apache and Franklin's Ginger. He said, this dog is unbelievable. And with Apache being named, the Native American name, that's where our whole kennel name of Native American names started to happen. Alan named his pup Geronimo. And he was 6 months old, and Alan just kept sending me these videos and pictures and talking about him. And Adam was approaching his 17th birthday, and I said, I want to buy that pup for Adam's 17th birthday for him. And Alan said, oh my gosh, you can't sell this pup. And I kept talking until he named a four-figure price that in the early 2000, like 2002 or something like 3 or something like that, was unheard of for a puppy. And I told him, I said, I will come up and get that puppy. And I said, but here's the deal, I want to come on Adam's birthday. We're going to come on Adam's birthday and get that pup. So we drove up to Ohio on Adam's birthday and gave Alan a lot of money for a 6-month-old puppy. And man, it was the best thing we ever did, because, he was the combination of the Street Junior Georgetta and Duff's Bob and Pine Knot Tiger Paws and Tootsdale and Candy. And man, he was something we'd never seen before. I mean, at 6 months old, our other dogs were going to him on trees instead of him going to them. I mean, it was crazy. And so that's the beginning of where we decided that we would take other people's amazing crosses, and since we didn't have a whole bunch of dogs, we would cross on their crosses, and they were dominant. I mean, all of those 3 crosses that I'm talking about were like dominant crosses that it's like maybe not every single pup out of that group was, or out of those crosses were amazing, but a lot of them were, and almost all of them were treating squirrels, but some of them were phenoms, you know. And so that's kind of where we got started. So that's a long-winded intro into the beginnings of Mountain State Kennels.
I like it. No, I was been sitting here with my notepad, and I've got a pretty interesting looking uh, family tree drawn out on how you got to Geronimo on the deal. Uh,
Yeah. Well, and you know, I'll say this, that I'll go this one last step on that thing. Well, Adam was in college. I didn't know if he would keep hunting or not. You know, he was a boy. He's a phenomenal trumpet player. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not, but he's played with the Pittsburgh Jazz Orchestra and the Tommy Dorsey Band and stuff like that. I mean, he's a phenomenal trumpet player. I didn't know if he would keep on doing the squirrel dogs. And so he was in college. We had Geronimo and we had Apache. Imagine that. We had Mountain State Geronimo and Mountain State Apache here hunting together. And, you know, two of the Hall of Fame dogs, two big dogs. And somebody called him. I don't even remember the guy's name, but he called him and offered him a huge amount of money for Apache. And he asked me, he said, "What do you think I should do, Dad?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. What are you going to do with the squirrel dogs?" And he didn't know for sure. I mean, he was a kid, you know, he didn't know for sure. And I said, "Well, you know, if you can get a bunch of money from Apache, maybe you'll pay off some of your college loans and stuff, you know." But I said, "You got to make up your mind on yourself." But I said, "We got Geronimo here. I mean, we got Geronimo and Apache. Do you need both of them?" We weren't really breeders, you know, at that point in time. We weren't breeders, but he said, "Well, I don't want to sell to this guy because I don't know who he is." I wish I knew who the guy was. He may be somebody right now, but I don't know who he was. But anyway, I said, "Well, who would you sell the dog to?" He said, "There's two guys that I talked to that I would trust with this dog. One of them is Alan Franklin, and one of them is Mark Morrison." Well, at the time, Alan had a whole bunch of, I mean, gosh, he was overwhelmed with Franklin's Thunder male dogs that were, you know, a couple of years old. And so anyway, he called Alan first, and Alan said, I don't need that dog. He said, I've got really good dogs. I don't need him. And Adam said, "What would you ask for him?" I'm not going to name the number, but, you know, Alan named a five-figure number that he said, "I wouldn't take less than that for that dog." If you think about 2003, 20-some years ago, a five-figure number for a young dog. But anyway, Alan said, "I wouldn't take less than that." So Adam called Mark Morrison, and Mark bought the dog for a lot of money, left us with Geronimo, which was, I mean, that sounds like, I'm saying it like it was, you know, left us with second best when Geronimo was the best dog I ever had, and I've been still trying for years to try to find another one like him. But we had those two at the same time, and he sold them to Mark Morrison. The last thing that we did, and this is where I was getting to with the story, the last thing that we did before we sent him to Mississippi to Mark, I told Mark, I said, "I promised Alan we would breed him again to Franklin's Ginger." And I said, "I can't let you have her until Ginger comes, let you have Apache till Ginger comes in heat." Well, Ginger came in heat in March, right before the OMCBA spring hunt. And we bred Ginger. And after we bred Ginger, I told Mark, I said, we can send her down to, with Alan, down to you in Jamestown, and you can have Apache then. That last breeding of Franklin's, or of Mountain State Apache and Franklin's Ginger, was where 2020 Tank came from. And thank goodness we did that, because between Tank and Geronimo, I mean, I know there are like dozens and dozens of amazing dogs in the Mountain Cur breed, but if you take Mountain State Geronimo and 2020 Tank out of the mix, think how much different it looks.
mm-hmm.
and and you know, that's me. Maybe that's me being patronizing or self-serving or whatever it is. But thank goodness we kept him up here and bred him to Ginger one more time, and that's where Tank came from, and of course that's where Hummer came from, And our dog Pepper now is a daughter of Tank, and you know, thank goodness we did that because honestly, in my opinion, self-serving or not, that changed the whole Mountain Cur breed.
Yeah, and really what I was kind of thinking earlier, as you were talking, was it's when you think about it, it's crazy how much one guy giving a 12-year-old that he's never met, only talked to on a
Yeah,
forum, a puppy,
yeah,
having it shipped, just being nice enough to give it to him, like how much
yeah.
that changed the original Mountain
The
Cur
whole
breed.
breed.
Yeah, how much
Yeah,
that
changed the
impacted
whole
the whole
breed by
breed just
doing
by
it.
some guy giving a kid a puppy.
Yeah, and how poignant is that in terms of some guys, and I see plenty of guys out there right now who are that willing to accommodate a boy trying to hunt, and you never know with those boys. Sometimes we will sell boys pups right now, 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old boy, and I'm thinking to myself, he's got more potential to change the breed than half of the 40, 50-year-old guys out there will ever do, you know. Yeah. And Adam did it. I tell you, Adam's a trainer. He's a dog trainer. There's no question about that. And he probably needs to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist because he's so intense about it that he will go, what he'll tell somebody will get a pup from us and they'll say, well, whatever, whatever. And he'll say, if you gave me that dog, I will tell you in 1 month if he's going to make it or not. Because he said in that 1 month, I'll take him hunting 27 times. And and that's the way he does things. I mean, he will push one, and he's so hard to please. I mean, I'm surprised. Well, I'm surprised that Apache pleased him, but as a boy, he thought, well, I'm on to something. I'm surprised that Geronimo pleased him because by the time Geronimo was around, he was in his 20s, or no, I'll say he got Geronimo on his 17th birthday. So he was late teens. He had already figured out that it was going to be really hard to get a dog that was good enough to suit him. And it's really tough for him now because he just expects so much from one. But he had Apache and Geronimo when they were puppies. Wow,
Mm. Yeah, it sets a pretty high bar.
yeah, yeah, it really does, really does.
Yeah. Well,
And
so
we've had some good ones since. I mean, we've had some really good ones since. I mean, you know, T-Bird right now is a granddaughter of Geronimo, and she's a granddaughter of Geronimo, but she's a daughter of Tank. I mean, that's our line breeding. That's kind of the way we've done things. She is when you look at. I mean, I came up with this idea of dominant cross breeding because I thought we will never be able to produce enough puppies to do the selection that it takes to get amazing dogs. So how are we going to do that if we can't breed, hundreds of puppies, pick out the best ones, find out what makes, what about a breeding program makes a good dog? How are we ever going to do that? Because I did not want, I didn't want 25 dogs. I wanted I wanted dogs that we would hunt, and no dogs that we wouldn't hunt. And so, how would we do that? And what I came up with, it was kind of in my mind, it seemed like it made the most sense is to use what other guys had actually had kennels full of dogs and evaluated them and found out that, Streak Jr. and Georgetta, Dust Bob and Pine Knob Tiger Paws, Tootsdale and Candy were something incredible. Just take those prepotent crosses and breed them together. And I'm sure that, there has to be some failure in that. But at the same time, it's like that's the best recipe for the best dogs at the time that we could find. And it just worked out so well for us. Um, you had a good dog trainer like Adam in there. And if you go to our website, there's a section in there about training tips, because I tell you what, back in those days there were no original mountain cur dogs in West Virginia. There were like very, very few members of Original Mountain Cur Dog Breeders Association in West Virginia. By the time Geronimo was throwing all these crazy pups, there were hundreds and thousands of them in West Virginia. Maybe that may be what got Geronimo in the Hall of Fame. I don't know, but he just turned West Virginia into a squirrel dog state. And so, if you're going back to the days when we started, there was nobody around with these mountain curs, or very few. And so people started saying, I want a squirrel dog, I want a Geronimo dog, I want an Apache dog, something like that. And it just became suddenly a big deal up here. We spread the Original Mountain Cur Breeders Association toward the Northeast in a way that, now I'm selling dogs in Vermont and Massachusetts. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
come on, there's nobody up there squirrel hunting, right? Well, there are now. So it's funny. And he did that. I did that ad of his training tips on our webpage, because I was selling so many dogs to people who had never had a dog before. They didn't know what to do with it. So it was like, it was like training preschoolers, which what I was used to, training preschoolers, but now we're training squirrel dogs. And so I started to give people information, because they would call me up and they said, I've never had a squirrel dog before. What do I do now? I got one. Now I got a puppy. What do I do with it? And that's how we worked it out.
Yeah. So when you're breeding, which, if I heard you right, you said that the Mountain State Pepper Dog was a full brother, full sister cross. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
how tight have you guys continued to breed, and what's your experience with that over the years?
We've never done anything beyond that with, we've done half brother, half sister crosses a lot, but we've never done a full brother. I honestly, if I had known in the 90s that she was an inbred cross, and that's, technically that's an inbred cross. If I had known that was an inbred cross, I probably would never have taken her, because I think that's too close. And my experience with hounds was, we never did that type of crossing on treated walkers. It was always out crossing to the other big, House's Chief and Finley River Chief and Johnson's Banjo, and you can name several of them. We crossed pups from each one of those lines onto the other lines. So everything was an outcross. And I was not familiar at all with the concept of line breeding, and I probably would have never gone ahead with Pepper if I'd known she was inbred. In fact, I used to make fun of her when she was a puppy and doing stupid things, saying, well, of course she's inbred. Well, why wouldn't she do stupid things? But later on, I found out through trial and, through experience, maybe with only doing those three crosses. And for a long time, that's all we did. We didn't do anything else. Those three crosses, Streak Junior, Georgetta, Pine Knot, Tiger Paws, and Duff's Bob, in Dale and Candy. That's all we did for a while, because they were so prepotent that I thought, let's don't get away from them. So we started mixing them together. It'd be like mixing brown and white and getting tan, and that's what we just kept doing, all along. And so we didn't do anything like Pepper was, which was inbred, but we got her before I knew that, and it turned out to be an okay thing for sure. The Duff's Bob line was a powerful line in the early mountain curs. By early I'm saying 30 years ago. But anyway, we would never have done it across that close. We've done a lot of half brother, half sister crosses though, and they've turned out really well. We've done them on Franklin's Thunder a lot. Apache was a half brother, half sister cross because he's a double grandson of Thunder. We did that good a little bit. And I think it worked out well, but I wouldn't have done it in the beginning because I didn't think about it from my hound perspective.
So we're talking about prepotent parents. That's not a word that gets thrown around a lot. Can you kind of define and go into what exactly you mean by what a prepotent parent is?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people made fun of me back in the early internet days of squirrel dog stuff because, I mean, they they joked around that I was a promoter and whatever, but um, and I kind of came up with two uh, terminologies, which was prepotent parents and dominant crosses, but whether or not they made fun of it, I didn't really care that much. It kind of gets your attention. Sometimes any publicity is good publicity, um, but what I believe is that if you take, let's say, a cross like Streak Junior and Georgetta, um, if you take that dog, a dog from that cross, and they are squirrel dogs, that it's a cross that produced a lot of squirrel dogs. So you take one that actually does what it's supposed to do, run and tree squirrels, and then you take another cross like Dale and Candy or Duff's Bob and Pine Knot Tiger Paws, and you take one from that cross where all of those crosses were proven in the effect that or the fact that huge number of dogs, percentage of dogs from that cross, those crosses were proven dogs. So you take genetics that get you where you want to go, and then you do it, and it works. So that tells you that the cross really is dominant for the traits you want to get. Let's say that you want to get black dogs. I mean, get away from hunting ability. Let's say you want to get a black dog, and you breed two dogs together, and you get all black dogs. Well, here's another cross. You breed them together, and you get all black dogs. And there's another cross. You breed them together, and you get all black dogs. You start mixing those together, and what are you going to get? You're going to get a lot of black dogs. Well, what we were looking at was, you got this cross, and you get a bunch of squirrel dogs out of it, good tree dogs. And the same with the other. And the other, when you breed them together, you are going to probably, when you mix all that together, you're probably going to come out with what you wanted. And so that's a concept that I used in our early breeding program, and it seemed to work out. And there are others. I mean, it would be silly of me to say, you know, uh, you know, the crosses that produced. Well, let's say Thundersport and Candy Jewel. There's a later day dominant cross. Uh, the cross that produced Porcupine Mountain Bud. There's another one. There are several of those. I mean, there are several you can name that do the same thing. But if you take those crosses, not just a pup out of not just a pup out of maybe Bobtail Kentucky Fred and anything else that turned out to be a good dog. Well, if you take a cross that produced a lot of good dogs, and you don't use the pups from that cross just as breeders, but use the pups from that cross that actually performed as breeders, then your chances of getting good dogs are like highly increased. You'll get good dogs from almost anything if you take a litter of 10 pups and you can find a couple of good ones in that cross. But when you get one that is just like over and over again producing nice squirrel dogs, and it's a dominant cross, then you breed them together, and man, your chances are really increased. if you're only going to have a couple, you know, right now, if you were to come here, we have, we have, um, well, I would say two breeding females right now. We've got Mountain State Dreamcatcher and Mountain State Thunderbird, T-Bird. That's all we got right now for breeding females. We've got a couple of young females that are coming on out of other things, but we only actually own one, two, three, four. Adam and I own 5 dogs, and we own part of 3 others. That's all we have. And so you can't just leave it up to chance when you're trying to breed good dogs when you only have that many dogs. You gotta make sure that what you're crossing is gonna have a huge percentage of probability to work out. And so that's kind of the angle we've worked at all along, and it's panned out for us, you know.
Sounds like it has.
Yeah, it surely has. And it's panned out for a lot of other people too. I rarely advertise that we have a litter of pups for sale because, well, I have 6 puppies right down here right now. They're 4 weeks old. They've been sold for, gosh, I don't know, a year, something like that. Because, you know, I I don't really have the need to advertise we have puppies for sale. So because people who've gotten them before know what they're getting and they want more of it. So it does work. I mean, it may sound self-serving, I don't know, but it does work. And I think the other thing is I think anybody can do it. I think anybody can take, 3 or 4 outstanding crosses and mix them together nowadays and come up with dogs that are tree dogs. I mean, I think it'll work if anybody wants to do it. If they don't have the ability to have, you know, dozens of dogs to breed and try them out, and I don't know, however you call them, give them away or kill them or whatever people do. Um, but I think if you don't have that capability, I think you can take 2 or 3 good dominant crosses and work them together and have the same success that we've had. I mean, some of it was luck and some of it was, you know, thinking, and some of it was Adam being able to train and, when he gets the kind of dog he wants to keep moving, and if he doesn't, get rid of him. So,
Well, as far as the future goes, are there any certain crosses or specific lines that maybe you guys are thinking about outcrossing to, or is there anything you've got your eye on for being what you would consider like a potential dominant cross to go to in the future?
yeah. Well, I mean, Uh, we bred Pepper several times. Or Pepper, gosh, I get Pepper and T-Bird confused because they act a lot alike. We bred T-Bird several times, and every time it's been to a different dog. We've had outstanding dogs from each cross. Honestly, I think if we could breed back to Bayou State Bob, we'd breed to him again. He's heavy Apache, but he died. He had some illness and died. But we bred to a different dog every time. Uh, the last time that Pepper came in heat, I asked Adam, I said, what would you like to breed to? What would you like to have a pup out of? And he said, Lost Bottom Spike. He said, really like to have a pup out of Lost Bottom Spike. So um, we we bred to Spike by artificial insemination with chilled semen, and I mean, we were really fortunate. We got 2 puppies, and we had the female that we have, and a good friend of ours who, Brad Hill, who's kind of he's kind of our Mountain State partner. What would you call it, silent partner or something like that. He's got one of them, and so we only had 2 puppies, which was which was amazing, and we're really thankful to be able to have those two. And it was hard work to get them. But I don't know. Right now, we're kind of at a point where, we like to maybe look out there for something that's equally as powerful as what we've got. And, Spike was one of those that we were interested in. I don't know what we'll do next, um, but, we're kind of playing around with that a little bit. I mean, we're trying to get a nice female. We got a nice female here right now. Her name is Dancer. She's out of um, McCurdy's Big Stomp and McCurdy's Cover Girl. Totally outcross to anything we've got, and we're liking her. She's got a big mouth and she's a big dog. We're kind of thinking we'd like, maybe to get some bigger dogs. I mean, gosh, Crazy Horse is the one we're hunting right now, and he's the one that Adam's worked on since he was a puppy. He's um, out of Bayou State Bob, and he's like he has everything Adam wants. And I say Adam wants because he's the guy who makes this determination. He goes flying in there. If anybody wants some enjoyment, they ought to listen or look at some of the face or YouTube videos that Adam has made from Crazy Horse. But he is a go-getter. He's got like no stop in him and all go. And we're trying to find something that kind of matches up with him. And this Dancer that we've got is Stump Dancer, which you'd have to do a little bit of research to know that that's a Native American name too, but it is. And anyway, that's kind of where we're looking at right now. I don't know what we'll go with next year with T-Bird. I got a feeling that we won't breed her to anything she's been bred to before. But we're kind of like playing around with that to see where we want to go. But there's a lot of good dogs out there right now. We believe in the OMCBA, but we also like to have dogs that are DNA registered or DNA profiled so that we know that I mean, certainly nothing to do with not having any hound in the dogs, but we're OMCBA guys and we want dogs that are proven to be what their papers say they are and so on. And so, we're looking at things like that. We're very interested in a good OMCBA dog that's loudmouth and hard tree and it hunts hard. And we think that probably uh, McCurdy's Big Stomp has got that in his offspring, and that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We don't know what we're going to do from here on out, but trying to make better OMCBA dogs, and we're registering all of them with LMC so that we know that they're all DNA and what they said they are.
Yeah. Well, what traits? I mean, I know you've covered a lot of this, but as far as where you're hunting, how do you like a dog to hunt? Do you want something that's gonna young clip it and it's gonna go find one and get treed anywhere? Or do you want him to come back and check? Or explain to me how you like one to act.
All right. Well, if you ask me how I like one to act and how Adam likes one to act, it might be different. I'm in great shape. I'm 70 years old, but I'm in great shape, and I can go as much as anybody. Adam's 30 years almost younger than me, and we don't competition that much anymore, but what he wants is a competition style dog. One thing he loves about Crazy Horse is that from daylight till dark, no matter how many times you turn him loose, he will go as hard as he can go until he gets treed. He rarely checks in. He is like full of fire all the time. So that's kind of what we're breeding for. If you were to ask me if that's what I like the best, it might not be quite that much hunt, but that's what Adam likes, and so that's what we're breeding for now is something that goes like somebody lit a fire behind him, and we like a dog that trees kind of hound-like, that's probably a reflection of my old tree and walker, you know, background, and that is we like a dog that trees hound like. Uh, Crazy Horse is, in his upper 40s in pounds. I don't know, 45 to 50 pounds. We like a good sized dog. We got coyotes around here. We like a good sized dog. Um, but mainly we like one that goes hard, and when he leaves you, he's thinking about getting treed, or he appears to be. Crazy Horse is like he's so in tune to what Adam wants. Uh, if you tell him to stay 50 yards from the other dog's tree, he will sit and look the other way and won't move. You can go down there and shoot the squirrel out. He will sit there and not move while you're at another dog's tree. If you tell him to heel, I mean, you can be at a tree, and all Adam has to do is say, he doesn't have to say anything about the tree. He just says heel. The dog will walk away from the tree, walk beside of him, and walk. If you want him to walk like 3/4 of a mile, he'll do it. But the minute you tell him to go, he will go. Um, if you say get in the truck, Adam showed me this before. I didn't believe it, but he showed me. He said, "Watch this," and the truck was like 600 or 700 yards away, and he left the tailgate open and the box open, and he looked at Crazy Horse and he said, "Get in the truck." And that dog, when we got to the truck, he was in the truck, sitting in the box, doors open with his head out the door. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we're looking for, is controlled fury, if that makes any sense. We named him Crazy Horse. I wanted to name him Crazy Horse because when he was a pup, I wanted to kill him because he was just out of control. And Adam said, "Nah," he said, "You're judging him wrong." He said, "All of the good ones are a little bit out of control." He says, it's like an athlete or a performer of any kind. If they're going to be really, really intense, they have to be a little bit out of control. And he was out of control in the beginning. I mean, like when he was a puppy, he was like going 1,000 yards and treeing, but he didn't stay. He's a pup, so he didn't stay. And I said, "I can't deal with this anymore." And Adam said, "One of these days he's going to start staying. And when he starts staying, he's going to be a powerhouse." And so eventually he started staying. So, he'd go 1,000 yards, or usually not 1,000 yards, but if he needed to, he'd go as far as he needed it, and he would tree and stay. And Adam said, "That's what I'm looking for," which he was, and he's totally independent, not going to another dog, not caring about another dog. And so we're actually training and breeding for competition type dogs, even though we're not competition hunting, because it's what Adam wants. It isn't necessarily the thing that I like the best, but it's what Adam likes, and he is the guy who decides, is this dog going to suit me, or am I going to move it on down the road? And when he decides one's going to suit him, they'll stay here forever. Crazy Horse will be here forever. Um, we've had some really, really good dogs that we've raised up and sold them when they were young. And people just say, "Oh my gosh, it's the best dog we ever had. Thank goodness I bought it from you." But it didn't suit Adam. And so we've had a couple that I did not want to let go of, and he let them go. And I thought they were amazing. But for him, not quite what he wanted, because he likes to train that competition style dog, even though we gave up a long time ago. We don't spend the money or the effort going to the competition hunts very much. So
Uh, I think you might have mentioned this. I might not have caught it, but how old is the Crazy Horse dog now, and have you bred him any?
we bred him, and I'll tell you, we've had some nice pups out of it. He only has 22 pups on the ground right now. And man, I could give you out of almost every female he's been bred to. Really, really nice pups. He's 5.5 years old, and he's out of Bayou, State Bob, and Thunderbird. Everything we got goes back to Apache and Geronimo. But he is he's Thunderbird is out of Tank and 20K Kate, and Bayou Bob is out of Hummer, and Gavin's little Annie, which is a daughter of Apache, and he's exactly what we like. And he's 5.5. So we're already starting to think about, getting a male pup out of him that we can do something with. Everything we got out of him now is females. And, we've got his mother, we've got his half sister, we've got a couple of pups, female pups out of him. We don't have anything we can really breed to him except this dancer dog out of McCurdy's Big Stomp. Uh, but we're not focusing yet on a male dog out of him, but we will probably sometime soon. Um, we only, like I said, we've only bred him a little bit, 22 pups out of him, but man, I'll tell you, there's some really, really nice ones. Tim Mays has got one out of him, and um, oh gosh, 2020 Nikki. Oh, gosh, I'm getting worse with names the longer I go along, but Um, anyway, we have a female pup from him and Kevin Rose's dog Coco, who's a 2020 bred dog too. We've got that. We've got some really nice pups out of him on the ground. We've bred him. Uh, our dog Sky is 12 years old now. She's not going to raise any more pups, but we're going to keep her here the rest of her days, even though she can't raise pups. We're going to honor her legacy and keep her here. There's some nice pups out of her and Crazy Horse. We we have a nice male dog that's out of Crazy Horse and a um, Mountain State Mohawk female, which I haven't really mentioned much about, but we've got a really nice dog out of those two. His name is Black Coal. He's only a year and a half, almost 2 years old, and he's doing a great job. So, yeah, Crazy Horse. I mean, if somebody wants to breed to him, we've bred them, but we don't have enough dogs here for us to do a lot of breeding out of Crazy Horse. The Crazy Horse is like for our enjoyment, and man, he's doing that. But uh, yeah, we'll have another pup or two out of him in the future that we'll do something with. But I don't know. It isn't like really the breeding part. I mean, we enjoy that in terms of seeing what we get. It's not really a picnic, raising puppies and stuff like that. So um, some people think you make a bunch of money raising pups, and you really don't. You get a lot of work. And not a lot of financial reward out of it. But we're excited about what we're going to end up with, a pup out of Crazy Horse. We're in our seventh generation now, and we don't intend to stop now. So he's the next step along the line.
I got you. Well, Chuck, I have sure enjoyed uh, the conversation we've had and getting to talk.
Yeah, same here.
Uh,
Same here.
is there anything we're getting up to be about that hour point? You got anything else
Yeah.
you'd like to talk about in closing?
Oh, I don't know. I think I mean I appreciate that that you're interested in the Mountain State story, and that's kind of fun for us because you know one of these days this is you have your legacy in whatever you do, and hopefully that one of these days the Mountain State legacy and squirrel dogs will be something that I can, when I'm an old man with a shawl around me and somebody feeding me my food sitting in a chair somewhere in a nursing home. That'll be something that I'm going to have a lot of enjoyment from. And I don't know. It's kind of where we are now, and enjoying every minute of it. Enjoying raising some grandsons that are interested in dogs, and see where it goes from there. But it's been a great ride to this point, and I'm not finished with it yet. I plan to have 20 more years of it in me, and I'm still able to go, so I'm going to keep on doing it. And then when I don't, my grandkids are going to do it for me.
Yeah, well, when you can't walk no more, they'll just have to load you up in a buggy and drive you to the tree.
Hey, got a lot of videos and stuff. I told Adam. Adam makes a lot of these nice YouTube videos. Anybody who is on on the internet should go to Mountain State Kennels on YouTube and see. Adam's made some really nice videos that I asked him to make them because I said one of these days all I'm going to have is those videos, and there's some really cool ones in there that you would enjoy watching if you haven't. And I hope everybody will log on to that Mountain State Kennels on YouTube and see some of those. They'll have a lot of fun watching them.
Yeah, I'll have to go look it up.
Yeah, you should do that. I think you'll like it too. Everybody looks at it and say, a lot of guys are saying, when's Adam going to put out another video? And he said, nobody knows how hard it is to put one of those out. So
Yeah.
anyway, there's a lot of fun and games to it, but there's also a lot of work to it. But it's all, for us, it's a labor of love. So
I hear you. Well, Chuck, once again, thank you for your time and agreeing to come on here. And I've really enjoyed the chat.
all right, I appreciate you calling me, Colby, and I'll look forward to listen to it online, see how stupid I sound.
Oh, I think you sound pretty smart if you ask me. But
Oh, well,
well,
thanks. I appreciate it.
well, everybody, take care and keep wearing out that boot leather. I just want to give everyone that's listening a sincere thank you. Getting this podcast going has been a project. I really hope you're enjoying it, and if you don't mind, give the show a good rating and review wherever you're listening to it at, or share it on your social media to help get some traction. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to your feedback.